And he says, I'm going to shoot you. And I say, again, I don't have anything for you. And he fires.
Are you ready to rise from ordinary to extraordinary? People are fed up with ordinary. Ordinary health, broke finances, crappy relationships, disconnected family, work, love, business. Help isn't coming from Wall Street, Main Street, corporate world, governments. They had their chance, and the world isn't doing much better. There are no handouts coming, except the ones you go get yourself, because you choose to go for something more. So where is help coming from? Because we believe people want more extraordinary in their life and are willing to do the work to go get it and live it. So we went on a search to find the top influencers and coaches you may or may not have heard about. Influencers and coaches on love and relationships, purpose and meaning, wealth and finances, health and fitness, business and entrepreneurship, and more. And we brought them to our vineyard, or met them around the world and asked them one question: how can you help people take their life from ordinary to extraordinary? And this is what they had to say. Hey guys, welcome to Rise of the Visionary. In this episode, we want to introduce you to Rha Goddess. She is the founder of Move the Crowd and author of The Calling: 3 Fundamental Shifts to Stay True, Get Paid, and Do Good.
And you're going to want to tune into this episode because Rha is all about teaching you how to give yourself permission to go after your biggest dreams, or what she calls your calling. Because a lot of people out there making excuses or creating mental roadblocks that are holding them back from fulfilling that. She's going to remove that. I had a great opportunity to catch up with her down at Influencer Summit. So you're going to want to jump into this episode like right now.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we have Rha Goddess in the house, creator of Move the Crowd and author of The Calling: 3 Fundamental Shifts to Stay True, Get Paid, and Do Good.
Whoop, whoop.
I mean, Jesus, lady, you are killing it. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to be here with you, my brother. Always.
You're like a soul sister. So I want to drop right into a conversation because I recently heard you get to speak. And besides, I did not know that you can sing a cappella out there pretty much and freaking rock the house. I was just like, does talent just fall off of her at every freaking drop? But I heard just your message. And I'm like, right now I have chills just thinking about it. I wonder if the camera can pick that up. No, but it was literally like this conversation, because if we're trying to say we're going to move the crowd and we're going to get people up and going and opt in to a new life and opt out, check out, tag out of the ordinary life, the thing that I'm finding first that is in their way is this idea of permission.
Yeah.
Permission to go after it. The idea sounds great, but they always go back to the norm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there are so many things that pull at us, you know, before we even can get out of the house. You know, if we got babies, if we got elderly parents we're caring for, if we are working 2 or 3 jobs, or we have one job that demands everything that we got, you know, whatever the situation, circumstances may be, extended family, community, all of it's pulling. And at any given moment, our agenda can be upended by somebody else's emergency crisis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real or imagined. Just want to say that. And so it takes an incredible amount of discipline to quiet the noise and to really come into your own clarity about who you are and what you want. And the ability to quiet the noise has to begin with that permission. Giving yourself the permission to slow down, or giving yourself the permission to close a door, even if it's in the bathroom. You know what I mean? And just be like, what am I doing? Make it that real.
Make it that real.
Like,
it's not the metaphorical door, it's the physical door.
The physical door. What am I doing here? And is what I'm doing what I want to be doing? Is this my life? Or is this some life that I've inherited by default? Is this me, or am I being who I think everybody else wants me to be or needs me to be? And a lot of us are afraid to ask ourselves those big questions because we don't know what the answers are going to require of us or from us. And so we're willing to stay in the haze of the busy, I should say in the blur of the busy and the fog of the hazy, because we're not answering those questions. But underneath it, Vito, I believe we're dreaming, we're imagining, we're conspiring. We know that there's another life that's really our life, but a lot of us have no idea how to get there.
So then if we're saying, okay, I've chosen, I can see it, and I'm inspired now, because I think today with the way social media is, the way just media in general is, a person can really look at and see another opportunity, another chance, another possibility. But then they're like, okay, I want it. And let's just say it's still clarity, but then how do I start seeking clarity? How do I then know this is my first step, my second step? Because they're just overwhelmed and confused with the number of ways and, should I do it that way or this, or what's true to me? So how do we find truth?
I mean, it's a practice. Like the slowing down, the getting clear, the asking the important questions is a practice. The other thing, which is also critical to mention, and to me, this is where you come in, is a lot of us need support. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with knowing that. I don't think there's anything wrong with owning that. And I think it's so important that you take action on it. Because what a lot of people will do is like, okay, I know I need to get clear, right? They get in the bathroom, like 5 minutes later, knock, 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 mommy, or knock, 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 daddy, right? Like, so there's that, right? There's that strategy. And they're not able to create the environment that is conducive to supporting the kind of clarity they need to get. Right? So
it's like you're peeking in my house right now.
Listen,
as we have a 14-month-old running around.
It just doesn't happen. So even with the best intentions, like you also have to be really honest with yourself and say, the door I need to close is outside of my house.
Yep.
Because I can't close a door in my house. So I may need to get outside of my house. And I need more structure. I need more support. I need somebody who's going to hold me accountable to the answers to these questions I'm asking myself. Because a lot of us just, I'll figure it out. I'll get there. I can't tell you how many people say that to me. And then I see them 6 months later and I get the same quip. I'm like, oh, that's just your greatest hook. Like you just got that on heavy rotation. I'm going to figure that out. Oh, I'm going to get that. I'll get to that. Oh yeah. I know I was going to do that. I'm going to, and then next thing you know, 3 years go by.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Still seeing people that I've connected with back when I first started masterminds and coaching pros. I'm like, it's 7 years.
Right.
And you're still living the same day to day. At what point are you going to say, I got to stop doing it alone, which I love what you were talking about there, because in a world today when everybody is putting their hand out, how could you not take the hand that's put out there? Yeah. And just be like, somebody has the structure. Somebody has a blueprint. You still have to meld it for you, but it's there. And instead, we still just choose to play small often. Yeah. Why? Why are people playing small still?
I think we live in a culture that encourages us to do that. Like the busy and the crazy and the chaos, I say this sadly, but truly is by design. You know what I mean? Like there's a way in which society is designed to keep you, I say, on your heels as opposed to on your toes. Yep. And you have to really have a commitment and a dedicated practice to slowing down or leaning in or leaning forward around the things that you say are important to you. Yeah. But again, you got to start with that clarity. And then it's only once you have the clarity that you can move to the conviction. And a lot of people are trying to have conviction without clarity. Right. You can't tell me what you're about
that will
until
lead
you
to a
know.
lot of diffusion.
Hello. And a lot of exhaustion.
Yep.
Can we say that, right?
Yes.
For sure.
I mean, it's an epidemic right now. We're
For
seeing it.
sure. And so, I hear people all the time, I'm all over the place. I have all these ideas. And I'm like, I bet you do. You know what I'm saying? I bet you do. But before you go chasing the next shiny thing, let's ground. Let's get clear about who you are. Let's get clear about what you want.
The values,
right?
what matters most.
What matters, exactly.
Do you know the one I find there the most that people disregard first? And it goes back to what you're saying about the idea of like also doing this within family, is they don't ground their roles and they don't honor the roles first. They're just like money, success, fame, all the different things, the achievements.
Yeah.
But they never ask themselves, how does that fit within the roles that matter most to
Yeah.
me? And that's why we have the struggles with the families, the struggles with the parents, the kids, what's going on in this very like thin society that we have right now.
It takes a lot, and I really wanna say this and honor you, Vito, because
Thank you.
it takes a lot to move your unit. Leadership, this is a conversation about leadership, y'all. So whether it's your family, whether it's your team, whether it's you're working a job and you have coworkers, it takes a lot to get everybody on the same page. And when you have a vision and a dream and a desire for a life, you know that you're not doing it in isolation. You've got to be willing to do the work to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever been said, I made it to the top and I did it alone.
Yeah.
I'm
I
always
don't know
just
how
like,
that
I'm like,
happens.
where's that book?
Right.
Where's that book?
I
I
don't
haven't
know how
read
that
that book. I
happens,
stand on
right?
top. And it's just me. I've just never seen that yet.
Not only that, but for me, for those who are on top and alone, I challenge you around your definition of success.
Amen.
Because I personally don't believe you are on top if
Right.
you're alone.
Right.
I believe you're alone.
This is such a weird reference, but it is Conan the Barbarian, the weird movie from Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day. But all the achievements he goes through, and at the end, he's sitting in a throne by himself.
Yeah.
That's not achievement.
No. I mean, listen, the conversation of conquering, because that's really what we're talking about, has its place when you're talking about conquering those parts of yourself that no longer serve you. In other words, releasing, transforming, moving through, right? Obliterating those things that no longer work. So we talk about bad habits, sure. But when we really talk about the conversation of success, what I consider to be true success is for me, whole success. And that means that all of you is thriving and prospering. It means you've not traded relationship for your business. You've not traded your health and well-being for your venture. You've not traded, you know what I mean? And so much of what we're taught to do in our society is trade, painful trading, difficult trading. And if we're going to be in a conversation about the dream and about the vision, we need to be clear that that's got to be a whole vision. And within that, we've got to be whole. And those we love have got to be whole and healthy and thriving and cared for in the vision.
Yeah. We chase success without remembering that at the end of it, none of it goes with you. And the only thing that matters, like I always like to just talk about like that daily dream experience. Because for years I ran through Wall Street and fashion industry and even in the fitness industry, I got in there. But I was like, all the models shown to me were others' choices of how it could be, as compared to I could sit back and say, why can't I do this in a Tuscan villa, on a vineyard? My morning routine always honors my son and my wife first. Then I'll get into my day. And the end of my day always returns back to honor my wife and my son and walk them the grounds. And I'm like, that's our choice. We may not be like, I'll do the 9-figure, 10-figure, 8, but I'm like, it's still my daily dream experience. And in a short life, as we were talking recently, my wife, our brother-in-law lost his baby 2 days before a baby was supposed to be born. A child that was not even given the chance to have a day in life. And we have people wasting life every day
Yeah.
because they're not accepting the permission that you're trying to give them.
Yeah.
And they're not answering that call.
Yeah. And I think the thing to say in that is that the permission only comes from you.
Mm-hmm.
I think we look around us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're looking to
Looking for
everything.
somebody else to give it to you.
Yeah, we're looking to everything and everyone but ourselves. And the truth is, it begins with us. We've got to ask ourselves. One of the exercises in the book, and the book, I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but one of the exercises in the book is about your vision for success. Because I think the first thing that we've got to give ourselves permission to do is redefine it and define it on our own terms.
Yeah.
And that isn't always about what we see everybody else having, you know. And I love, Vito, what you're naming because, you know, listen, we each have a money truth. And I was going to put it out there because I know money is one of the major concerns.
It's not an
right?
evil.
No. You know, and again, I address this in the book. You know, there are three major concerns that I find when we get to the conversation of why people answer or why people don't, right? Why people give themselves permission or why people don't, right? The first is like, who am I? So whatever perception we've taken on about who we are or who we are not or who we think we are or what we think we're capable or what we don't think we're capable of, and all of that sort of navigation and that tension back and forth is the first thing that people are having to sort of overcome and get through in order to step in. The second, of course, how am I going to feed my family? And that's real, you know, because if you're saying, okay, great, gung-ho, walk away from the job, what am I replacing that with, right? So there is a recipe and a formula for how you do that, right? And then the third is, can I really matter? Can I really make a difference? You know, this world is going to hell in a handbasket, you know, with a bag of Cheetos inside. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, can I really like cut through all that noise and that chaos and that mayhem and touch people's lives? Because I believe at a fundamental level, Vito, we just want to touch people. We want to know that our contribution can make a difference for somebody else.
And understanding that contribution doesn't need to mean it's at the level of like, granted, because this influencer thing and all that stuff, we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's part of what our dream is and what our purpose and our calling is. But I'm also like, my contribution is to make sure I raise Luca to be the best man he can be, because he'll pass on these teachings. It doesn't have to be at that level. No. We can choose contribution at our own daily dream experience.
My mantra, super mom to super mogul.
And
everything in between. Super dad, right? To super mogul and everything in between. For sure. And you get to decide what the scale is. And again, like I keep coming back to, you know, people say, oh, you can have it all. You know what? I don't need it all.
That's right.
What I'm interested in is what matters. Have what matters. And everything else will take care of itself. Everything else will be gravy.
So when you're working with someone and you help them try to decide what is this thing that matters, let's talk a little bit about that. What's your process there?
So we take people, so the first sort of piece is the clarity, right? And in the clarity process, the first thing we got to do is we got to get, like, what's the essence of your soul? Like, beyond all the titles and the accolades and all of the other ways that we often define ourselves, who are you at the core, at the essence? In other words, just by virtue of the fact that you're drawing breath, there are certain qualities and opportunities and possibilities that are present. What are those? We got to get there, right? So like taking it to the studs.
Yep.
From there, then there's the question about, what do you value? What's important? What are your values? What are the things that really, really matter to you? Then from there, it's, what are the talents that you've been given? What's that unique combination of gifts and talents and abilities that you've been given or that you've cultivated or honed over time? And how do those come together in a unique proposition that you make to the world, right? Whether it's your proposition as dad or it's your proposition as director, right? Or CEO, right? And you begin to understand that. And then it's, how do you want to leverage those incredible talents and that proposition to make a difference out into the world? And literally, we walk through each of those layers, and one builds on the other,
Yep.
on the other,
You
on
can
the
feel it
other.
stacking.
You feel me, right? So that by the time we get to what you want to do out in the world, you're ready to get out in the world. You know what I
Love it,
mean?
love
You're
it.
ready to take it.
So is that where their calling comes? Is that when they can say like, "Hey, is this
Yes.
my calling
This
now?"
is where we get
and now
to your-
I'm naming it
this
finally.
is where
I'm
we get to
giving
your
it a
calling and
face.
your
I'm giving it
purpose.
like, yeah.
How do you leverage all that you are to move the needle on all that you want to see happen in the world? Because we only get the world we want to see by us being willing to bring what we're here to bring.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. So, have you ever experienced? Because this is what like I see a lot. Because you said it a little bit before, where like we start dreaming, we start making these things, but you'll often find people, and I might bastardize this a little bit, but I think if you said it right, people make their promises and declarations, yet still back down from them. Because we can still decide this is my calling, because people do it all the time. Dreamers do it all the time.
Yeah.
But they're not still stepping forward into it.
Right.
How do we help a person not make the promise and the declaration, and then 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, in a short life,
Yeah.
every one of those years, you may not get another one.
Yeah. So here's the thing. First of all, you got to see it as a practice.
I hope you're listening to this.
Like
You keep rewriting that word, practice.
Yoga, like meditation, like brushing your teeth, like washing your face, practice. Like every single day, you've got to touch the commitment that you've made to yourself. Every single day, you've got to look at those promises and declarations and ask yourself, how am I delivering on that today? How am I showing up inside of that today? What is the one step that I'm going to take forward to honor that today? And that's got to be the ritual, the practice every single day. The other thing is the permission to be in action around it. You know, you heard me talk a little bit about permission to pursue, right? Because that's the other thing. Like, okay, I can want it.
I took
could want it
pursue
all
the
day long.
rise. That's how I relabeled it. Pursue the
Yes,
rise.
pursue the rise, right? Like, so, like, how do I give myself permission to leave my house with
Yep.
all of this? You know, so I get revved up, I get all rah rah, but then I want to like actually get out. You know what I mean? And the call is the pull. It is the thing that's pulling you into action, right?
That was a really good distinction, because I was thinking about that quote that Brendan shared about Booker T. Washington. There's two ways to exert force: push down or pull up. Yeah. And I like that the way you just said that, though, because the calling isn't the push, it's the pull.
It's the pull.
Go deep
It is
there.
the pull.
Love
It is
that.
that gravitational magnetic force that is drawing you into what it is that you are to do in this world, in this life, in this incarnation. It is drawing you to the truth of who you are, and it is drawing you to the highest contribution that you are here to make. And it is drawing you all of the time in very little ways and in very big ways. All of it's operating, and it's about whether or not you're willing to surrender to that magnetic force, to that gravitational pull, right? That's grounding you in the truth of who you are and in what it is that you're here to do.
Yeah, because if you ain't stepping into that, it's two things. Either it'll feel like that little, you said, it's always a little bit at you. So it's either going to always be that push, that pull, that gravity, or within you, it's that scratching, that clawing, that you're not going after that.
Yeah.
And that's when all of a sudden the life of regret and the life of, why did I not step into the best of who I am, what
Right.
I can do for contribution, what I can do for connection,
Right.
erodes at us,
Right.
and then unhappiness sets in.
Yeah.
And then that's where everything starts to spiral around us, when we're not answering the call.
There was a study, and I wish I could remember the name of the woman that did it. She wrote a book, and she was a hospice nurse who had spent 30 years at the bedside of people in their final moments. And she listed the top 5 things, the top 5 regrets that people have consistently at the end of their lives. Do you know what the number one thing was?
Hit it.
Not doing the things that they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
They most wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing the things that they felt they were really being called or invited to do. Number one, across the board. Number two, relationships.
Yep.
Of course. Right? All of the regrets around the things we didn't say to the people we loved, or the relationships we didn't pursue because of whatever reason.
Yep.
But the number one was that they didn't do the things that they really wanted to do, that they allowed the excuses to get in the way.
So this is where I feel one of the core pillars of what you teach, take possession, starts to kick in. Let's talk. What does that feel like? What does that do? What does that mean?
I mean, anytime you all are moved, that's the trembling, that's the shaking, that's the jumping up and down excitement, that's the, man, I'm ready to get at it. That's, it's like that's the 3 minutes before the prize fighter takes the ring. Do you know what I'm saying? It's that energy, the possession. It's where all of who you are is trembling at the surface, ready to break free, ready to step in and really take over. And people have those moments. My joke is with rock concerts, those incredible seminars, right? Those at the fight. Like, there are these moments where people are just, and they're inspired by watching the triumph of the human experience. They're inspired by being touched by the humanity of another journey, right? Of the stories that we hear. And in those moments are when everything opens up for us. We get the eureka, that clarity. We get that moment of conviction. We get that declaration. All of a sudden, the path becomes clear. And then we leave the concert. We leave the seminar, right?
And everything
we come away
starts
from
to
the
come
fight.
down.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then our phone rings, and it's the babysitter, right? Who's wondering like when we're going to get home. And
Do you see my phone or something?
do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all of those, then the mundane
Yep.
of the day to day starts to come creeping back in. And it then becomes this distant memory of like, oh, that great Beyonce concert. And we think it's about Beyonce, but it wasn't about Beyonce. It was actually about us. And our moment gets lost. Our moment gets lost. And what I want people to know through the book, through the conversation that we're having today, through all of the work that we do at Move the Crowd, is that your moment is happening for a reason. Are you going to seize your moment? Because at the beginning, middle, and end of the day, it is a choice. But if you allow the possession, if you embody the possession, if you feed, nurture, and cultivate the possession, it's going to keep coming. And it's going to get stronger and stronger, and the possession is going to then crystallize into your mission. And that's going to crystallize into the next steps that you need to take. And that's going to crystallize into the impact you're here to make and your experiencing of that in real time. And then you start magnetizing, you start vibrating, and you start attracting all of the opportunities, all of the support, all of the resources that you need in order to make the dream real.
So let's take that and let's help somebody move through that. Because you want to take possession. You've got that motivation, and it's that idea. It'll always go back to what you've said, the practice. People think it's just like the theory, the feel good of it, and you're like, I wish it was that. It really is like the intentionality of doing the practice every single day to clock in, run the miles, do the work. So when you've got a person that is finally there where they're like, okay, I'm taking possession of this, how do I drop into a practice now? What do you move them through?
Yeah. So the first thing is display. We need to see it in order to be it, in order to reach for it, in order to invite it in. We need to see it. So I talk with my beloveds all the time, and I call my people my beloveds.
Love it.
Those I get the chance to serve all the time. Is it on your mirror? When you're brushing your teeth, are you looking at it? Is it in your phone? Do you have alarms that beep at intermittent periods that remind
Setting
you?
up the triggers.
Do you feel me? Is it in your workspace? Is it like taped to your bedroom lamp before you cut off the light? Like, where are all the places that you are putting your eye on the prize, whatever it is that you're going for? Then it's the practice of engaging. What's the action? And we make a very clear distinction between vital actions and distraction actions, right? So you set the goals, right? Of course, you set the goals, which are drawn from the vision. From the goals, you then set the milestones, which are what are those things, those steps you're going to take along the way that get you to the goal, that make the goal inevitable. And this is all part of the clarification work that we do. Then it's the vital actions. You don't need to do 100 actions, you all. You do one vital action a day, you will be moving the needle in ways you cannot imagine. We talk about the 80% and the 20%. We teach you how to live in the 20%, how to work in the 20%. So what's the vital action you're taking today? And then what's the vital practice that keeps you in the energy and in the vibration of that thing that you're wanting to achieve, or that opportunity that you're wanting to manifest and deliver on? And the opportunity to be in the practice while you're taking the action. All of this is about setting up the field to magnetize, the field to be able to allow you to co-create with all of the things out there that want to co-create with you. And all of it operates and works in service of your vision. Now, I want to take it one step deeper. When I ask people about their vision, you know, I was in a conversation with a beautiful soul yesterday, and just gorgeous and up to amazing things in the world. When I asked about their vision, they're like, oh, I want to be on stage with thousands of people chanting my name. Now, here's what I want to say to you all. That's a beautiful fantasy. And it can become your reality, but you need to have a deeper commitment than just it being about you in the center of the stage.
That's right.
What are you offering to the world such that that vision has the opportunity to show up? In other words, what's in it for the million people who are chanting your name? And a lot of us don't think beyond the image of the million people. We don't think about what is the actual difference that I want to make in the lives of the people who are in the stadium with me. And the truth is if you get maniacal about that impact, the stadium is a done deal.
I always like to think about it as like, what are the things that are going to be your commandments? Because I'm like, those are the things we've always fought for. We always fought for, because I'm like, I've lived through broke. And I'm like, I shall freaking die in the defense of teaching people how to no longer live broke. So there are less families that are destroyed, broken, struggling, so that we could see the world lift that way. And in service of that, I've done good. And I've built the business, and I've built those kind of things. In the service of being like, too many people's visions are dying. They're sitting there with their promises and their declarations not going forward. We're like, in the service of that, we built the roadmaps. We built the plans to teach people how to go, so they can take the vision, plan it, and go unleash it. In the service of that, we've done the good and made the money and do so. That's the difference. It's the flip of really deciding that it's in service that I receive. It's not in the getting that I accumulate.
Correct. Understand that you in the middle of the stage, because the way people see it is, oh, I stand in the middle of the stage and there are all these people, and now I deliver my message, and I say to them, no, you deliver your message one soul at a time, and then one day you wake up and you're standing at the stage, and all of the people who are standing there are the people who have already received your message. They are the fruits of your labor. Do you know what I mean? It's the reverse.
And I love that. I love that, because if we can strip down to serve one person at a time, it will become less overwhelming to think about how
Yeah.
do I go build the business, how do I become the influencer, how to become the guru, whatever
Yes.
whatever way you want to label it.
Yeah.
But in just saying, well, I could go talk to one person and I can help them move forward,
Yeah.
the overwhelm will simply start to calm and melt away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, I loved the statement that Rachel Hollis made a couple days ago, right? We saw her on stage. Phenomenal. She said, you're looking at the middle of my journey and you're at the beginning of your journey and you trying to judge the gap.
Yep.
And so much of what we do, and this is some of the ways in which social media cannot be our friend, is we see somebody else's dream life and dream likes. And we think, do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, oh, I'm a loser because I don't have however many thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And the truth of the matter is, Mount Everest gets covered, right, or gets summited one step at a time. Your contribution, your movement grows one soul at a time. So if you have 10 followers, are you serving those 10 followers like they were 10 million followers? And it is a psychology. It is a mindset, right? To your point. And it becomes digestible and attainable if you're willing to actually just work the heck out of what's in front of you.
That's it. The thing, like, because I get it all the time. Like, we have our vineyard, we have our life, we have the things that we're doing right now. And people sometimes are like, yeah, but you forget what it was like to be down where I'm at and this and that. And I'm like, no, I remember what it was like to be there.
Yeah.
What you're discounting is the 7 years I was willing to grind through that to have this life. Because now you want it in 1 year.
Yeah.
You want it in 2 years.
Yeah.
That I think we need to also go back to an understanding of the work ethic of
Yeah.
what we have to do to chase down our dreams
Yeah.
and make them real. They need to be clocked in every day. They can't be done dabbling. They can't be done once in a while,
Yeah.
which is why I love what you're talking about, the practice.
Practice.
Because I think in that practice finally comes the liberation.
Yeah, it's about who you become.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always going to be a next thing to go get. Trust me.
Yeah.
Right? The magnetic pull of the call. There's always going to be another thing, another call inside of your calling. Right? And so part of what we have to understand is that it doesn't come quick, because the growth and evolution that we need to undergo in order to be able to fully receive the thing doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So you can get it, but you'll lose it tomorrow if you're not ready to receive it.
That's right.
And that's where the practice truly builds your internal capacity and fortitude and breadth and depth to be able to engage and integrate and receive the good when it comes as it's supposed to.
And I think it's at somewhere it also has to ultimately become a demarcation line.
Yeah.
Where you're like, no more. A willingness to no longer look at the life that you've been given. Because did you fall out of the womb this Rha Goddess thing or whatnot? Because I'm like, I was a shit show as a kid. Like, my mom would love to have, like, packed me away and send me away. That, like, you weren't born this way. You developed who this is.
Many, 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 many years on my knees, y'all. Many years on my knees.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen overnight.
Because if I'm not mistaken, you had a moment in your life where whatever faith or gods or whatever was going on, that was the moment that made this start to happen.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that moment.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about my gun moment. Yeah. So I was shot at point blank range. Coming home one evening after work, it was back in the days of like Walkmans, and I had my Walkman on, and
I know the days you're talking about.
My little music, and I just so happened like I was already like I had just kind of surrendered to this new. Like I felt like there was some kind of awakening going on for me, and I was doing this cleansing fast, and I that was the thing I reached for. It was the first thing I reached for, to sort of go, okay, I'm trying to create this new life or this new foundation. I don't even know all of what it looks like, but I'm doing it. And what had happened was, as I started to do this fast, shout out Queen Afua, started to do this fast, all these things started coming, and I was like, no, that can't be right. Or, purpose, right? God, the call, this magnetic force kept pulling. I kept, no, can't be, not me. I don't know how you do that, make money, all the noise. And I had a moment where I come home and this guy pulls up on a bike and he's asking for a neighbor, where are the Johnsons? And I look up and look back down, trying to think of like, where are they? And he's pointing a gun. And we have this whole interaction. And in the interaction, literally, you all, I feel a beam of energy come down through the top of my head, down into the soles of my feet, planting me in place. And literally my mouth opens and I just say, I don't have anything for you, brother. And he says, I'm going to shoot you. And I say again, I don't have anything for you. And he fires. And I see the light. First, I hear the sound, see the light flash, see the smoke as this thing leaves the chamber. But I don't know and can't to this day tell you where the bullet went. And he continued to fire. And then at some point the gun jams. And he hops on the bike and he rides away. And though I don't know what happened to the bullets, the message was not lost on me. Mm-hmm. It was very clear. It was like, either I'm going to surrender or the universe is taking me out. That's it. Mm-hmm. Those were the choices. And that was my moment of reckoning. And unfortunately, for so many of us, back against the wall situations, and I don't know that it has to be that way, Vito.
I was literally just thinking that.
Go there.
I was just like, because you might be like, that's a dramatic story. Right. And a person can think, well, that hasn't happened to me or whatnot. But I'm like, you can choose to make any day the demarcation line.
Absolutely.
I stood in an office when I recognized that the way I was building my career and my life, like I will be a bad father and a bad spouse. And those are two roles that I don't want to have bad in my life.
Yeah.
And I chose to make that the demarcation line where I'm like, no, this can't continue. So I must grow. I must evolve. Yeah. I must change in order to create a different me, to put out a different input into the world so that I can receive differently. Yeah. And if you don't need a gunshot, you just simply need to make a choice go give yourself permission to go take possession of the call that you have so that you can liberate your potential out there. And that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Rha, if you were going back to the younger you and you could say one thing to people about how do you go do this now, today, in all the mayhem and all the craziness that's out there, if you're like, this is my one thing I would tell you.
Listen to yourself. Mm. We always know, you guys. We always know the truth. Whether we acknowledge it or not is another matter. But we always know. Learn how to listen to you consistently, constantly, and begin to honor what it is that you are telling you in your highest wisdom. That is where the path lives. That is where the revolution is. That is where success resides. Listen to you. Follow you. Love you. Give you the permission to be all that you are, to do all that you're here to do, and to have everything that wants to move to you.
You're my sister.
Thank you so much for having me, my love.
My pleasure. And with that, I just leave you with the idea of listen to what is inside you. because her word of the revolution is happening now, but it's not a revolution of governments and military. It's a revolution of the spirit, a revolution of the call, and a revolution of the visionaries. We're going to shift the molecules of what is happening in this world.
What's up, visionary? Did you like this episode? Well, if you're looking to bring your vision to life and into the world, go to thevisionaryplanner.com/podcast to get access to our Visionary Toolbox. It's filled with free tools and trainings from us and all of our amazing guests. Until next time, keep rising up, visionary.